The great hall of Zarian Prime buzzed with the sounds of 1,000 different alien voices. Ambassador Peter Collins sat in the small human section, watching as the Galactic Council prepared for another session. He had been Earth's representative for 8 years now, and today felt different. Today might be the day everything changed. Peter looked at his tablet one more time. The proposal was simple. Humans wanted to build a colony in the Vega sector. It was empty space, far from any other world. No one lived there. No one claimed it, but the council had rules about who could expand where, and humans were still considered the new kids. Dr. Lisa Hammond sat beside him, her fingers moving across her own device. She was reviewing the data they had collected over the past decade. Information that would shock the council if they knew what it contained. Information about how much humans actually contributed to keeping the galaxy running. The session began. With the usual ceremony, the ancient ethereals glowed softly as they took their places. The crystalline Zephyrians chimed in harmony. The collective moved as one mind in many bodies, all the old, powerful species that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. Counselor Vexathera of the Zephyrians called the session to order. Her crystal body caught the light and threw rainbow patterns across the hall. Today we hear from the human delegation regarding their territorial request. Peter stood and walked to the center of the hall. Every eye, sensor, and awareness in the room focused on him. He had given speeches here before, but never one this important. "Honored Council," he began, his voice carrying clearly through the translation systems. "Humanity requests permission to establish a colony in the Vega sector. This region contains 3 habitable worlds and sufficient resources to support a population of 50 million humans." Murmurs filled the hall immediately. 50 million was a large colony by galactic standards. Most new settlements started with a few thousand people. The sector is currently unclaimed and poses no threat to existing territories. Peter continued. Human surveys show it is stable and suitable for long-term habitation. Counselor Thex of the Collective spoke first. His voice was the sound of many minds speaking as one. The Collective questions the wisdom of allowing such rapid human expansion. Your species has only been spacefaring for 2 centuries. The Zephyrians. Agree, Vexthera chimed. Humans show disturbing tendencies toward aggression and unpredictability. Perhaps smaller, supervised settlements would be more appropriate. Peter felt his jaw tighten, but he kept his voice calm. Humanity has been a peaceful member of this council for 43 years. We have contributed to galactic trade, shared our technologies, and aided in numerous peacekeeping efforts. An ethereal named Lumara floated forward, its ghostly form shimmering. Youth brings enthusiasm but also rashness. The galaxy requires stability above all else. The debate continued for hours. One by one, the major species voiced their concerns. Humans were too young, too aggressive, too different, too unpredictable. The same arguments Peter had heard for nearly a decade. Finally, the vote was called. The numbers appeared on the great display above the hall. 847 votes against, 3 votes in favor. Only the peaceful Alorians and the trade-focused Merchant Guild had supported humanity. Vexathera stood to deliver the final judgment. The Council has decided that humanity is not ready for major territorial expansion. You may establish a research station with no more than 1,000 personnel. Peter stared at the results for a long moment. Behind him, he heard Dr. Hammond gathering her materials. They had expected this outcome, but it still stung. After decades of proving themselves, humans were still treated like children who couldn't be trusted with real responsibility. He walked back to the center of the hall. The conversation had already moved on to other business, but Peter's voice cut through the noise. If I may address the council one final time. The hall grew quiet. This was unusual. Rejected petitioners typically left immediately. Peter looked around the vast chamber, meeting the eyes and sensors of beings from across the galaxy. For 43 years, humanity has worked within the systems established by this council. We have followed every rule, respected every tradition, and contributed to the common good of all species. He paused, letting his words sink in. Today, this council has made it clear that no matter what humanity accomplishes, no matter how we prove ourselves, we will always be considered too young, too dangerous, too different to be trusted as equals. Vexithara began to speak, but Peter held up his hand. I'm not finished. The crystalline being fell silent more from surprise than respect. This council believes humanity has nothing valuable to contribute to galactic civilization, that our ideas are too dangerous, our expansion too threatening, our very presence too disruptive. Peter's voice grew stronger. If that is truly how you feel, then perhaps it is time for humanity to discover what we can accomplish without the council's guidance. The hall erupted in confused chatter. This was not how diplomatic sessions usually ended. Peter reached into his jacket and pulled out a formal document. I hereby withdraw Earth and all human colonies from the Galactic Council, effective immediately. We resign our membership in all treaties, trade agreements, and cooperative ventures. The shock was immediate and visible. Even the ancient ethereals seemed to flicker with surprise. No species had ever voluntarily left the Council. Membership was considered essential for survival in the galaxy. Dr. Hammond stood and activated her own device. For the Council's information, we are releasing all restrictions on human technological development. We will no longer limit our research to approved fields or share our innovations through Council channels. Peter nodded to her, and then looked back at the assembly. Humanity thanks the Council for the lessons we have learned during our membership. We now go to learn what lessons the galaxy might teach us on our own. He turned and walked toward the exit. Dr. Hammond fell into step beside him. Behind them, the hall exploded into chaos as hundreds of species tried to process what had just happened. As they reached the door, Peter heard Vexithara calling for order. This is unprecedented. Surely the humans don't mean to cut themselves off from all galactic civilization. Peter paused at the threshold and looked back one last time. Counselor, you have spent this entire session explaining why humanity doesn't belong in galactic civilization. We're simply taking your advice. The doors closed behind them, shutting out the noise of the panicking council. In the corridor, Dr. A. Hammond was already on her communicator, sending coded messages to Earth and the human colonies. Think they understand what just happened? She asked. Peter smiled grimly. I don't think they have any idea. But they're about to find out what the galaxy looks like without us. Above them, human ships were already beginning to move throughout Council space, starting the long process of bringing every human home. The galaxy was about to discover just how much they had relied on the species they never quite trusted. 6 months had passed since Ambassador Peter Collins walked out of the Galactic Council chambers. The galaxy watched with mixed feelings as humanity began the largest evacuation in galactic history. Human ships moved constantly between worlds, carrying people, equipment, and entire families back to human space. Captain Nina Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the exploration vessel Pioneer, watching another group of human families board transport ships at the Nexus trading hub. The massive space station had been humanity's second home for decades. Now it felt strange to be leaving it behind. Last transport is loaded, Captain, her first officer reported. That's everyone from Section 7. Nina nodded. Section 7 had housed nearly 50,000 humans who worked in the station's maintenance and engineering departments, jobs that kept the ancient station running smoothly, jobs that other species had never wanted to do because they required creativity and problem-solving skills that most aliens found difficult. On the other side of the galaxy, engineer Tony Mitchell was supervising the dismantling of human technology from Council worlds. His team worked carefully, making sure to remove every piece of human innovation that had been quietly keeping alien systems operational. Sir, the Zephyrians are asking us to leave the atmospheric processors in place, one of his engineers reported. They say removing them will cause problems for their colony on Kepler 7. Tony shook his head. Council made it clear they don't need human technology. We're just following their wishes. The engineer looked uncomfortable. But sir, without those processors, Their colony will lose breathable air within a week. Not our problem anymore, Tony replied firmly. They wanted us gone. We're giving them exactly what they asked for. Back on Earth, Admiral Susan Parker was reviewing reports from across human space. The withdrawal was proceeding faster than anyone had expected. Humans were eager to leave Council territory behind and start fresh. Ma'am, we're getting reports from the Nexus hub, her aide informed her. They're having serious problems with their docking systems. Apparently, human technicians were the only ones who knew how to fix the automated systems when they broke down. Admiral Parker wasn't surprised. Humans had a talent for understanding complex systems and finding creative solutions when things went wrong. Other species preferred to follow established procedures, even when those procedures didn't work. Any word from Dr. Carter's team? She asked. Yes, ma'am. The quantum communication project is ahead of schedule. We should have our own communication network operational within 3 months. This was important news. For decades, all interstellar communication had gone through Council-controlled relay stations. Messages were monitored, delayed, and sometimes blocked entirely. Dr. Alan Carter's team was building something revolutionary, a communication system that would let humans talk to each other instantly across any distance, with no Council interference. Meanwhile, on the world of Nexus Prime, the Elorian Republic was facing a crisis. A strange disease was killing their crops, and nothing they tried could stop it. Councillor Aliceth stood before the emergency session of the Council, her blue skin pale with worry. The plague has now spread to 17 agricultural worlds, she reported. Our scientists estimate that without intervention, we will lose 60% of our food production within the year. Vexthara's crystal form chimed thoughtfully. Have you consulted the agricultural database for similar incidents? We have reviewed all recorded cases, Aliceth replied. None match the symptoms we are seeing. This appears to be a new form of crop disease. What the Elorians didn't know was that humans had been dealing with similar problems for years. Dr. Maria Gonzalez had developed techniques for stopping agricultural plagues that other species thought were impossible. She had quietly saved dozens of worlds from starvation, working behind the scenes to keep the galaxy fed. But Dr. Gonzalez was now on Earth, helping to establish humanity's first independent agricultural colonies. The techniques she had developed were no longer available to the Council. At the Nexus Trading Hub, things were getting worse. The station's central computer system had crashed 3 times in the past week. Systems that had run smoothly for decades were now failing regularly. The Merchant Guild was starting to panic. The problem is getting worse, Guild leader Kexton reported to his advisors. Transit times have increased by 40%. Docking accidents are up 300%. And we've had 17 major system failures this week alone. What do the technical teams say? Asked his second-in-command. They say the systems are too complex. They were designed by multiple species over centuries, with modifications and patches added constantly. Only the human engineers seem to understand how all the pieces work together. Kexton's multiple eyes blinked in frustration. Contact the human colonies. Offer them double pay to return. Sir, we tried that. They said they're not interested in temporary contracts. They're focused on building their own infrastructure now. While the galaxy struggled with these problems, humanity was making incredible progress. Captain Rodriguez had just returned from surveying the Andromeda Arm, a region of space that the Council had declared off limits due to unknown dangers. What she found there amazed everyone. The region is completely safe, she reported to the Colonial Planning Committee. More than safe, it's perfect for human settlement. Multiple star systems with habitable worlds, abundant resources, and no sign of intelligent life. But there was something else. Something that would change everything. We also detected artificial structures in the Kepler 442 system. Captain Rodriguez continued. They appear to be very old, possibly millions of years, and they're clearly designed by an intelligence far more advanced than anything in Council space. Tony Mitchell was equally excited about humanity's technological progress. Free from Council restrictions, human scientists were making breakthroughs that had been impossible under the old rules. We've solved the energy storage problem, he announced during a conference call with Earth's leadership. Our new power cells can store 50 times more energy than anything the Council uses, and our new ship designs can travel twice as fast as Council vessels. The breakthrough everyone was waiting for came from Dr. Carter's lab. The quantum communication network was not just working, it was working better than anyone had dreamed. We can now communicate instantly with any human colony anywhere in the galaxy, he reported. But that's not the best part. The system also works as a sensor network. We can detect ships, energy patterns, and communications across vast distances. We essentially have real-time knowledge of everything happening in human space. This meant humanity was no longer blind to galactic events. They could monitor Council activities, track ship movements, and gather intelligence without anyone knowing they were watching. The galaxy was starting to notice the effects of humanity's absence. Trade routes that had operated smoothly for centuries were now experiencing constant delays. Technical problems that had been quickly solved were now causing major disruptions. Systems that everyone had taken for granted were breaking down. But the real shock came when the collective attempted to expand into the territory humanity had abandoned. Their ships arrived at the former human research station in the Tau Ceti system, expecting to find valuable technology and infrastructure. Instead, they found empty buildings and deactivated equipment. The humans had taken everything with them, leaving behind only basic structures that were useless without the technology that had made them function. This is unprecedented, the collective reported to the Council. The humans have not simply left. They have erased all traces of their presence. It is as if they were never here. Vexathara was beginning to understand that humanity's departure might have been more significant than anyone had realized. Perhaps we should have been more careful about how we treated them. But it was too late for regrets. Humanity was gone, and they were clearly not coming back. The galaxy would have to learn to function without them. On Earth, Admiral Parker smiled as she read the latest reports. Everything was proceeding exactly as planned. The galaxy was discovering just how much they had relied on human ingenuity and problem-solving skills. Phase 1 is complete, she announced to the Joint Chiefs. All human personnel and technology have been withdrawn from Council space. Phase 2 can begin. What's Phase 2? Asked General Kevin Stone. Admiral Parker's smile grew wider. Phase 2 is where we show them what humanity can really accomplish when we're not being held back by Council rules and regulations. 2 years had passed since humanity left the Galactic Council, and the galaxy was falling apart. Commander Bill Hayes stood in the command center of the Emergency Response Fleet, watching distress signals flood in from across Council space. Every day brought new disasters that no one seemed able to fix. Commander, we're getting reports from the Xerion defense grid, his communications officer announced. The ancient warning systems are failing. They're requesting immediate assistance. Bill shook his head. The Xerion defense grid was a massive network of sensors and energy barriers that protected the galactic core from dangerous cosmic storms. It was older than most civilizations and incredibly complex. For decades, human engineers had been quietly maintaining it, solving problems that other species couldn't even understand. Tell them to contact the Council, Bill replied. We're not part of their system anymore. But privately, Bill was worried. If the defense grid failed completely, the cosmic storms would destroy hundreds of worlds. Billions of innocent people would die, including species that had supported humanity in the Council. On the other side of the galaxy, Dr. Maria Gonzalez was reviewing ecological reports from her research station on New Haven, humanity's first independent colony. The data she was seeing made her stomach turn. The situation is worse than we thought, she told her team. Without human intervention, 17 star systems are facing complete ecological collapse. The Rigel system has already lost 3 worlds to atmospheric failure. Her assistant, Dr. Kate Stevens, looked up from her computer. What about the terraforming projects we abandoned? Are they still running? No, Maria replied grimly. The automated systems failed within 6 months of our departure. Other species tried to maintain them, but they didn't understand how the systems worked. They've been shutting down one by one. Maria had spent her career developing revolutionary techniques, for restoring damaged planets and creating livable worlds from barren rocks. Her work had saved dozens of civilizations from extinction, but she had done it so quietly that most species never knew humans were responsible. Now those same species were dying, and they didn't even know why. Captain Roy Thompson was monitoring galactic communications from his intelligence station in the Centauri system. What he was hearing shocked him. The mighty Galactic Council was begging for help, but no one knew how to provide it. The Merchant Guild is reporting a 70% drop in successful trade runs, he reported to Admiral Parker during their weekly briefing. Their logistics networks have completely broken down. Ships are getting lost, cargo is being delivered to wrong planets, and nobody seems to know how to fix the routing systems. Admiral Parker wasn't surprised. Human logistics experts had been the backbone of galactic trade for decades. They had an ability to see patterns and solve complex scheduling problems that other species found impossible. "What about the collective?" she asked. "They're having internal problems," Roy replied. "Apparently, their hive mind works well for following established procedures, but when unexpected problems arise, they can't adapt quickly enough. They're requesting emergency sessions with the Council almost daily." The collective had always prided themselves on their efficiency and unity. But efficiency meant nothing when the systems they depended on were breaking down faster than they could understand. Engineer Tony Mitchell was putting the finishing touches on humanity's first major independent project, the Freedom Station. It was a massive construction in orbit around New Earth, designed to be completely self-sufficient and capable of supporting 500,000 people. "The station will be operational in 3 months," he reported to the Colonial Planning Committee. "Our new manufacturing systems can produce everything we need, from food to starships. We won't depend on anyone else for anything." But Tony's real pride was the new jump gate network that connected human colonies. Unlike the ancient council gates that were slow and required authorization codes, human gates were fast, efficient, and completely under human control. "We can now travel between any human world in a matter of hours instead of weeks," he announced. "And our gates are completely invisible to council sensors. They don't even know we're using this technology." The breakthrough everyone had been waiting for came from Dr. Alan Carter's quantum research lab. His team had not only perfected instant communication across any distance, but they had discovered something incredible about the ancient structures Captain Rodriguez had found in the Andromeda Arm. "The structures are not just ruins," Dr. Carter announced during an emergency meeting. "They're active, and they're trying to communicate with us." The room fell silent. Contact with unknown alien intelligence was humanity's greatest dream and greatest fear. "What kind of communication?" asked Admiral Parker. "Mathematical sequences, physical constants, and what appears to be technical specifications for advanced technology," Carter replied. "Whoever built these structures has been waiting for someone with the right level of technological development to make contact." "And they chose now to reveal themselves?" asked General Stone. "Not exactly," Carter said carefully. "Our analysis suggests they've been sending these signals for millions of years, but only our new quantum communication network is advanced enough to detect and decode them." This changed everything. Humanity wasn't just becoming independent. They were making contact with a civilization far more advanced than anything in the galaxy. Meanwhile, the galactic situation continued to deteriorate. The Elorian Republic was facing complete starvation as the crop plague spread to every agricultural world they owned. Desperate, they sent a secret delegation to the human colony of New Terra. Ambassador Alaseth arrived on a small, unmarked ship, hoping to avoid council attention. She met with Colonial Governor Lisa Martinez in a secure conference room. "We are dying," Alaseth said simply. "Our people are starving, and we cannot stop the plague that is destroying our crops. We know that humans have techniques that could save us." Governor Martinez felt sympathy for the gentle Elorians who had been among the few species to support humanity in the council. But she also knew that helping them would have consequences. "The council forbids member species from trading with us," she replied. "If we help you, they might punish your people even more severely." "We no longer care about council punishment," Alaseth said desperately. Without help, our civilization will be extinct within a year. Governor Martinez made a decision that would change galactic history. We'll help you, but not through official channels. Human agricultural experts will arrive on your worlds as independent researchers. What they do there is their own business. Within weeks, Dr. Gonzalez and her team were secretly working on Alorian worlds, using advanced human techniques to stop the plague and restore the damaged ecosystems. It was dangerous work that could expose humanity's continued involvement in galactic affairs, but it was also the right thing to do. The results were miraculous. Crops that had been dying for months suddenly began to recover. Soil that had been poisoned became fertile again. The Alorian Republic was saved, but they weren't allowed to say who had saved them. Back in council chambers, the crisis was reaching a breaking point. Vexthara stood before the assembled representatives, her crystal form dim with worry. "We face the worst crisis in galactic history," she announced. "Trade networks are collapsing, defense systems are failing, and entire ecosystems are dying. We need solutions, and we need them now." Councillor Thex of the Collective spoke with unusual uncertainty. "The Collective has analyzed all available data. Our conclusion is that the current crisis stems from the loss of human problem-solving capabilities. Their departure has created systemic failures throughout galactic civilization." The admission shocked everyone. The Collective never admitted they were wrong about anything. An ethereal named Lumara floated forward, its ghostly form flickering with distress. "Perhaps we should consider reaching out to the humans, requesting their assistance." "Absolutely not," Vexthara chimed angrily. "We cannot show weakness by begging help from a species we expelled from the council." But privately, many council members were beginning to wonder if their pride was worth the destruction of galactic civilization. On New Earth, Admiral Parker was reading the latest intelligence reports with satisfaction. Phase 2 of humanity's plan was working perfectly. The galaxy was learning just how much they had depended on human innovation and problem-solving skills. "Ma'am, we're receiving communications from the ancient structures," her aide reported. "Dr. Carter says the signals are becoming more complex. It's like they're testing our technological development." Parker smiled. "Good. Let them test us. I think they're going to be very impressed with what humanity has accomplished." The galaxy was changing, and humanity was no longer the junior member begging for acceptance. They were becoming something far more powerful and important than anyone had imagined. 3 years after humanity left the Galactic Council, the unthinkable happened. The Xerian defense grid, the ancient system that had protected the galaxy for millions of years, finally collapsed completely. Admiral Chris Walker watched the reports come in from his command center on New Terra, each one worse than the last. "The energy storms have reached the Rigel system," his communications officer reported. 17 worlds evacuated so far. The Zephyrian home system is next in the storm's path. Chris felt no satisfaction in watching his former enemies suffer. The Zephyrians had been wrong about humanity, but they didn't deserve to die for their mistake. The energy storms were deadly cosmic phenomena that could strip the atmosphere from entire planets in hours. "Sir, we're receiving an emergency transmission from Zephyrian space," another officer announced. "It's on all frequencies." "Put it through," Chris ordered. The voice that came through the speakers was Vexthara, the same counselor who had led the opposition to humanity 3 years ago. But now her crystalline voice was broken with desperation. "To anyone who can help," she pleaded. "Our home system is dying. The storms are destroying everything we have built over thousands of years. We don't know how to stop them." Chris looked at his staff. They all knew that humanity had the technology to control the energy storms, knowledge gained from their partnership with the ancient beings they had discovered. But using it would reveal how far human technology had advanced. "Sir, what are your orders?" his second-in-command asked. Before Chris could answer, another report came in. "Admiral, the storms are accelerating. They'll reach the galactic core in 6 months. If that happens, the gravitational disruption could destroy the entire galaxy." On the research world of Discovery, Dr. Helen Murphy was making history. She stood in the communication chamber that Dr. Carter's team had built, speaking directly, with beings that called themselves the predecessors. They had been waiting in the Andromeda Arm for millions of years for a species worthy of contact. "Your kind shows promise," the predecessor voice echoed in her mind. It didn't use sound but spoke directly to her thoughts. "You have achieved independence from the rigid structures that limit growth. You solve problems rather than follow procedures." Dr. Murphy had been studying the predecessors for months now. They were incredibly ancient and had once ruled a vast empire across multiple galaxies, but they had learned that true civilization couldn't be imposed from above. It had to grow naturally from species that valued individual thinking and creative solutions. "The energy storms threaten all life in this galaxy," she told them. "Can you help us stop them?" "We can provide knowledge," the predecessor replied, "but the choice to act must be yours. True civilization cannot be saved by others. It must save itself." Captain Joe Barnes was leading humanity's most ambitious construction project yet. The ring world of New Terra was nearing completion, a massive structure that could house 50 million people. It used technology that combined human engineering with predecessor knowledge, creating something that surpassed anything the old council had ever built. "The habitat rings are online," he reported to Colonial Governor Martinez. "Artificial gravity is stable, and the atmospheric systems are working perfectly. We can start moving colonists next month." But the real marvel was the ring world's defensive systems. Using predecessor technology, humanity had built shields that could protect entire star systems from cosmic disasters. They had the power to stop the energy storms, but using it would reveal their alliance with beings far older than the Council. Dr. Emma Clark had been studying the storm patterns for weeks, trying to understand their source. What she discovered changed everything. "The storms aren't natural," she announced during an emergency meeting. "They're generated by ancient automated systems designed to test galactic civilizations. If a civilization becomes too rigid and stops growing, the systems activate to force change." Governor Martinez stared at the data. "You're saying these storms are meant to destroy civilizations that don't evolve?" "Not destroy," Emma corrected. "Forced to change. The storms will continue until the galaxy develops better ways of working together and solving problems. This meant the crisis would never end unless the galactic civilizations learned to cooperate and innovate instead of following ancient rigid rules." On the Zephyrian homeworld, panic filled the crystal cities as the energy storms approached. Vexithara stood in the evacuation center, watching her people prepare to abandon the world they had called home for 10,000 years. "Counselor, we've received a response to our distress call," her aide reported. "From whom?" Vexithara asked. "Hopefully, from the humans." Vexithara felt her crystal form dim with shame. The species she had dismissed as too young and dangerous was now their only hope for survival. The message was simple. Human rescue fleets are en route to assist with evacuation. No conditions, no payment required. Within hours, human ships began, arriving in Zephyrian space. Captain Rodriguez led the rescue fleet, her vessels using technology that the Zephyrians had never seen before. The human ships moved through the energy storms as if they weren't there, protected by shields that seemed to bend reality itself. "How is this possible?" Vexithara asked when she was brought aboard Rodriguez's ship. "We've learned a lot in the past 3 years," Rodriguez replied diplomatically, "more than we ever could have learned under Council restrictions. The evacuation was a miracle of organization and efficiency. Humanity saved over 1 billion Zephyrians, transporting them to safety in human space. But the home world was lost, consumed by the storms that the ancient systems had unleashed. Back in Council chambers, the remaining representatives faced their darkest hour. More than half the member species had either been destroyed by the storms or evacuated to human space for safety. The great galactic civilization was collapsing. Counselor Thex of the Collective spoke with a voice that showed unusual emotion. "The Collective has reached a conclusion. Our rigid adherence to ancient procedures has failed. We require new approaches to survive." An ethereal named Lumara flickered weakly. "Perhaps Perhaps we should have listened to the humans. Their adaptability and innovation might have prevented this crisis. The Merchant Guild representative, Kexton, was more direct. We need to contact humanity immediately. They're the only ones who seem able to function in this chaos. But it was too late for simple requests. The few remaining council worlds sent a joint delegation to New Terra, led by the same species that had expelled humanity 3 years earlier. They arrived not as proud representatives of galactic civilization, but as refugees begging for help. Governor Martinez met them in the same conference room where she had secretly negotiated with the Elorians. But this time, the meeting was official and desperate. "We come to ask for humanity's help," Vexithera began, her voice barely audible. "Our civilizations are dying, and we don't know how to save them." Martinez looked at the assembled aliens, beings who had once considered humanity too primitive to deserve respect. Now they were pleading for human assistance. "The storms are not random," she told them. "They're tests designed to force civilizations to evolve or die. The galaxy has been stuck in the same patterns for millions of years. The storms will continue until that changes." "What do you mean?" asked Thex. "The old council system of rigid hierarchy and suppressed innovation created the conditions for this crisis," Martinez explained. "The galaxy needs a new approach based on cooperation, creativity, and respect for all species' contributions." Dr. Murphy's latest communication with the predecessors confirmed this. The ancient beings had faced the same test millions of years ago. They had survived by abandoning their empire and allowing younger species to find their own paths to greatness. "We offer you the same choice we gave ourselves," the predecessor had told her. "Abandon the old ways and embrace change, or perish with the systems that no longer serve life." Admiral Walker received authorization from Earth to reveal humanity's capabilities. The time for secrets was over. Using predecessor technology, human fleets began deploying storm control systems throughout the galaxy. The energy storms were gradually contained and redirected away from inhabited systems, but the price of salvation was clear. The old Galactic Council was finished. The rigid hierarchy that had ruled for millions of years had proven incapable of handling real crises. In its place, humanity proposed something revolutionary: a new galactic government based on cooperation between equals, where species were valued for their contributions rather than their age or power. "We're not seeking to rule you," Governor Martinez explained to the surviving council representatives. "We're offering to work with you as partners in building a better galaxy." The choice was simple: accept humanity's new model of galactic civilization or face the storms alone. One by one, the surviving species accepted. The Zephyrians, humbled by humanity's rescue of their people. The collective, recognizing that their rigid thinking had failed. Even the proud ethereals agreed that change was necessary. The old galaxy was dead. A new one was about to be born, with humanity as its unexpected guide toward a better future. 5 years had passed since humanity walked out of the Galactic Council chambers, and the galaxy looked completely different. President Lisa Martinez stood on the observation deck of New Terra Station, watching ships from dozens of species work together to build the new galactic capital. It was no longer a human project or an alien project. It was everyone's project. The old council chambers on Zerion Prime had been abandoned after the energy storms. In their place, humanity had helped design something revolutionary: a space station where every species had an equal voice, regardless of how old their civilization was or how much territory they controlled. Dr. Ray Coleman walked through the construction zones, checking on the Galactic Shield project. It was the largest engineering effort in galactic history, combining human innovation with technology from every surviving species. The shield would protect the entire galaxy from future cosmic disasters, but more importantly, it represented something that had never existed before: true cooperation between all galactic civilizations. "The Zephyrian crystal matrices are integrating perfectly with our quantum field generators," he reported to Admiral Dan Foster. "And the collective's processing systems are handling the coordination between thousands of components." Admiral Foster smiled. The same collective that had once dismissed human unpredictability was now working alongside human engineers, learning that unpredictability was actually creativity in action. "What about the ethereal contributions?" Foster asked. "They're providing the energy manipulation techniques that make the whole system possible," Coleman replied. "Turns out their ancient knowledge works perfectly with our new approaches when we combine them properly." The galactic shield was more than just a defense system. It was proof that the old ways of thinking were gone forever. Species that had barely spoken to each other for centuries were now sharing their deepest secrets and most advanced technologies. Captain Nina Rodriguez was preparing for humanity's most ambitious mission yet. The exploration ship Pioneer had been rebuilt using the best technology from every species in the galaxy. Her crew included humans, Alorians, reformed collective members, and even young Zephyrians who had grown up in human space. "Final systems, check complete," her engineer reported. It was Tony Mitchell, the same man who had supervised the withdrawal of human technology 5 years ago. Now he was working with alien engineers to build something no single species could have created alone. "Where are we headed again?" asked the ship's new first officer, a young Alorian named Calisay. "Beyond the galaxy," Rodriguez replied. "The predecessors have told us about other galaxies where civilizations are facing the same tests we survived. Our job is to share what we've learned." The idea of traveling to other galaxies would have been impossible under the old council system. But humanity's partnership with the predecessors had opened doors that no one had imagined. The ancient beings had given humanity the keys to technologies that could cross the vast emptiness between galaxies. Back on Earth, Ambassador Carol Wright was preparing for the most important diplomatic meeting in human history. She would represent the new Galactic Federation at the First Intergalactic Council, where civilizations from multiple galaxies would meet to share knowledge and establish peaceful relations. "Are you nervous?" asked her aide as they reviewed the presentation materials. "A little," Carol admitted. "We're about to meet civilizations that might be millions of years more advanced than us, but I think that's exactly why they want to meet us." The predecessors had explained that most galactic civilizations eventually stagnated, becoming so focused on maintaining their power that they stopped growing and learning. Humanity was unusual because they had broken free from that pattern, choosing growth over stability and cooperation over domination. Dr. Helen Murphy was conducting her final interview with the predecessors before they departed for their next destination. The ancient beings had decided that the galaxy no longer needed their guidance. "You have exceeded our expectations," the predecessor voice echoed in her mind. "Your species has not only survived the tests, but has helped others survive as well. This is the mark of true civilization." "Will we see you again?" Murphy asked. "Perhaps when you are ready to help other galaxies find their own paths to greatness. But that will be your choice to make, not ours." The predecessors were leaving, but they were taking with them the knowledge that their long wait had been worthwhile. They had found a species worthy of carrying their legacy forward. On the former Zephyrian homeworld, now called New Harmony, an amazing transformation was taking place. The energy storms had cleared, leaving behind a world that was somehow more beautiful than before. Zephyrians and humans worked together to build a new kind of city, one that combined crystal architecture with human engineering. Vexithara, the former counselor who had once opposed humanity so strongly, now served as the planet's co-governor alongside a human administrator. She had learned that leadership meant solving problems together, not commanding from above. "The agricultural domes are exceeding production targets," she reported during the weekly planning meeting. "The combination of human growing techniques and Zephyrian mineral processing is creating crops that are more nutritious than anything we've grown before." Her human counterpart, Governor Bill Hayes, nodded approvingly. "And the new manufacturing centers are ready to start production. We'll be able to supply the entire sector with advanced technology within 6 months." New Harmony had become a symbol of what the galaxy could accomplish when species worked as partners instead of competitors. The transformation wasn't limited to individual worlds. The entire galaxy had changed its approach to everything from trade to exploration to conflict resolution. The rigid hierarchies that had once dominated galactic politics had been replaced by flexible networks where the best ideas could come from anyone. Captain Joe Barnes commanded one of the new exploration fleets that were mapping regions of space the old council had declared off-limits. His mixed-species crew had discovered dozens of new worlds and 3 new intelligent species, all of whom were welcomed into the Federation as equals. "The galaxy is so much bigger than we thought," he reported to President Martinez during his monthly briefing. "The old council had barely explored 10% of our own galaxy. There are wonders out there that we never imagined." The new approach to exploration emphasized cooperation and peaceful contact rather than territorial expansion. When they encountered new species, the Federation's first goal was to offer friendship and assistance, not to establish dominance. Engineer Kate Stevens had become the director of the Galactic Construction Corps, overseeing projects that spanned multiple star systems. Her latest achievement was a transportation network that connected every inhabited world in the galaxy, making travel and communication easier than ever before. "Trade volume is up 400% from pre-crisis levels," she reported to the Federation Council. "But more importantly, cultural exchange is happening on a scale we've never seen before. Species that barely knew each other 5 years ago are now sharing art, literature, and scientific discoveries." The old galaxy had been divided into separate territories where each species stayed in their own space. The new galaxy was integrated, with beings from different worlds living and working together throughout the Federation. President Martinez stood before the assembled representatives of 47 different species, each one an equal partner in the galactic government. The chamber looked nothing like the old council halls. Instead of rigid seating arrangements based on age and power, species sat in mixed groups, working together on shared projects. 5 years ago, humanity left this galaxy's government because we were told we didn't belong. She began her annual address. "Today we stand together as proof that civilization works best when every voice is heard and every contribution is valued." The response was enthusiastic support from species that had once barely tolerated each other. The collective, the Zephyrians, the Ethereals, and dozens of others had learned that diversity made them stronger, not weaker. "Our next challenge," Martinez continued, "is to take what we've learned beyond this galaxy. The Pioneer will depart next month on humanity's first intergalactic diplomatic mission. Our goal is not to spread human values, but to share the idea that civilizations thrive when they embrace change and cooperation, instead of fearing them." As she spoke, the first ships of the intergalactic fleet were preparing for departure. They carried crews from every species in the Federation, united by a common purpose: to help other galaxies find their own paths to greatness. The old galaxy of rigid hierarchies and suppressed innovation was gone forever. In its place stood something that no one had thought possible: a true galactic civilization where every species could contribute their unique strengths to the common good. Humanity had started this journey as the species that didn't fit in. They were ending it as the guides who had helped everyone find a better way forward. The galaxy would never be the same, and that was exactly as it should be.